the beeping was slowing down, and nobody cared. Have you ever had that moment where your body is telling you something is very wrong, but the person in charge just shrugs it off? That's exactly where I was, lying flat on a stiff hospital bed. Bright lights overhead, a machine next to me, counting something I didn't fully understand yet, but I could feel it changing. Bit too slow. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. At first I thought maybe I was imagining it. I mean, I'm Kendra, 17, not a doctor. What did I know about heart monitors? Numbers flickered across the screen in green and yellow, lines jumping and dipping like they had a rhythm of their own. But my chest, it felt tight. Not like anxiety, not like nerves before a test. This was heavier, like something pressing down from the inside. I can't breathe, I whispered. My voice barely made it across the room. Denise, my caregiver, early 40s, leaning casually against the counter, didn't even look up right away. She sighed, like I had just interrupted something important. You're fine, she said, flat and quick. You're just panicking. Panicking? That word stuck in my head. 'Cause here's the thing, I wasn't panicking. Not yet. I turned my head slightly toward the monitor again. Even slower now. Are you sure? I asked, my voice thinner this time. It feels wrong. Denise finally glanced over, but it wasn't concern I saw. It was impatience, like she'd seen this 100 times before and already decided how it would end. Kendra, she said, walking over halfway before stopping, you had a fainting spell earlier. Your tests are normal. This is anxiety. If you keep focusing on it, you'll make it worse. Normal. That word didn't match what I was feeling because my fingers were starting to tingle. My vision, it wasn't blurry exactly, but the edges were dimming like someone was slowly lowering the lights around me. And the sound, everything felt farther away, except the beeping. Why was it getting farther apart? I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breathing, trying to prove maybe to her, maybe to myself that I wasn't overreacting. But then I noticed something else. Across the room, near another monitor station, there was a guy sitting quietly. He hadn't said a word since I'd been moved into this room. Evan, late 20s, maybe, a technician, I think. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the screen, my screen. And unlike Denise, he wasn't relaxed. He was completely still, watching, studying. His eyes flicked between numbers, then back to the moving line, then back again. His posture tightened just slightly, so subtle I almost missed it. Why was he paying attention if this was nothing? Denise, I tried again, my voice weaker now. Something's... She cut me off with a small, frustrated laugh. You need to stop spiraling. Seriously, you're okay. Okay, right. So why did it feel like my body was slowing down? Like everything inside me was sinking. Beep. Beep. I stared at the monitor. Even I could tell now the number had dropped again. I didn't know what it meant exactly, but I knew it wasn't good. And that's when I saw it. Evan shifted, just slightly at first. Then suddenly his chair scraped loudly against the floor as he stood up. Fast. Too fast. His eyes locked onto the screen. His face lost color. And for the first time since I got there, someone looked like they believed me. He took a step forward and said, sharp and urgent, wait. And everything in the room froze. It didn't feel like panic. Panic doesn't make your heart slow down. That was the thought hitting me over and over as Evan stood up. Because suddenly, the room didn't feel routine anymore. A second earlier, Denise had been acting like I was just another dramatic teenager who read too much online and couldn't handle a little stress. But Evan's reaction? That cracked something open. Fast. And the worst part? The second I saw fear on his face, I felt my own fear finally catch up to me. Let me back up for a second. I wasn't even supposed to be in that room long enough for any of this to happen. Earlier that afternoon, I'd passed out during gym class. Nothing dramatic at first, at least that's what everyone thought. We were doing laps outside, it was warmer than usual, and I remember feeling lightheaded. Then my hearing went strange, like I was underwater. Then the ground came at me way too fast. Next thing I knew, I was in the nurse's office with a juice box in my hand and 3 people standing over me asking if I'd eaten breakfast. I had. That's what made it weird. The school nurse didn't want to take chances. She called my mum Lydia, 45, and told her I should get checked out, just in case. That froze again. Just in case. Nothing urgent, nothing terrifying. Just enough concern to send us to the hospital, not enough to make me think I was in danger. Even in the car, Mum kept trying to reassure me. You probably got overheated, she said, squeezing the steering wheel tighter than usual. Or maybe your iron's low. We'll get it checked and then we'll go home. And I believed her. Honestly, I did. At the hospital, the first few hours were boring more than anything. Questions, blood pressure, blood tests, sticky leads pressed onto my chest. A doctor asked if I'd ever fainted before, if I had chest pain, if there was any family history of heart problems. I said no to almost all of it. That seemed to relax everyone. At first, my labs came back normal. My blood sugar was fine. Oxygen looked okay. One doctor said they wanted to keep me on a cardiac monitor for observation because of the fainting. Not because they thought something was definitely wrong, but because they didn't want to miss anything. And that part matters, because someone almost did. Mum stayed as long as she could, but she had to leave for a work emergency around early evening. She hated it. I could tell. She stood by the bed adjusting my blanket like I was 10 instead of 17. You text me if anything changes, she said. I will. And if you feel weird again, say something. I know. She kissed my forehead and looked at Denise, who had just come on shift. Denise gave her this calm little smile. Professional. Reassuring. The kind of smile that makes parents unclench. She's stable, Denise told her. We'll keep an eye on her. That sentence came back to me later in a way I don't think I'll ever forget. Because once Mum left, everything changed in these tiny ways that didn't seem huge at first. When I mentioned feeling dizzy again, Denise said it was probably because I'd been lying down too long. When I said my chest felt strange, she asked if I was stressed about missing school. When I told her the monitor sounded slower, she actually gave me this look, half amusement, half annoyance, and said, most patients your age get more nervous from hearing the machines than from anything actually happening. Not cruel, not openly, which almost made it worse, because it gave her just enough cover to keep dismissing me. Meanwhile, the monitor kept changing. I didn't understand the numbers, but I started noticing the trend. Earlier, the heart rate had looked normal. Now it was dropping, slowly, steadily, a few beats lower every time I looked. 70s, 60s, then lower. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe resting made it go down. Maybe athletic people had lower heart rates. Maybe Denise knew what she was talking about. But then my hands started going cold. And across the room, Evan checked my monitor again. This time, he didn't just glance at it. He leaned in. Then my heart rate dipped into the 40s. I looked at Denise and said more firmly than before, something is wrong. She exhaled through her nose, barely hiding her irritation. And behind her, Evan's expression changed. He stepped closer to the screen, like he had just seen something he really didn't like. That's when the beeping stopped sounding like a machine and started sounding like a countdown. You ever hear a sound so many times that your brain starts to ignore it? That's what hospital monitors are supposed to do. Blend into the background, become harmless. But this was different, because now every single beep felt like it mattered. Beep, beep, bep. The gaps were getting longer, and I could feel it. Not just hear it, feel it. My chest wasn't just tight anymore. It felt delayed. Like my body was waiting too long between each heartbeat, like something inside me had forgotten the rhythm it was supposed to follow. I swallowed, but even that felt slow, heavy. Denise, I said again, my voice barely steady now. Please, something's really wrong. She didn't even turn around this time. You're focusing on it too much, she said, typing something into the computer. That's what anxiety does. It convinces you something is happening when it's not. Convinces me. Then why did everything feel like it was fading? The edges of my vision darkened more noticeably now, like someone was slowly pulling a curtain inward from all sides. The ceiling lights above me blurred, stretching slightly like I couldn't quite focus on them anymore. I tried to take a deep breath. It didn't work. It stopped halfway. I can't breathe, I whispered again. Still nothing from her. That's when the fear hit me, fully. Not the quiet kind. Not the maybe something's wrong kind. The real kind. The kind that says, no one is going to help you in time. Beep, the sound came again, louder now. Not because the machine changed, but because everything else felt distant, muted. Like I was sinking underwater and the only thing still connected to me was that sound. And then it changed. A sharper tone slipped in between the beeps. Subtle at first, almost like a warning the machine wasn't sure it should commit to yet. My eyes flicked to the screen. The number had dropped again. Lower than before. I didn't even need to understand it anymore. My body understood. This wasn't normal. Across the room, Evan stood completely still, but not the same kind of still as before. This was alert. Focused? His eyes were locked on the monitor, scanning rapidly now numbers, waveform, back to numbers again. His jaw tightened slightly, and for the first time, there was no hesitation in his expression. Something had clicked for him. Something specific. He stepped closer. Wait, he said quieter this time, like he was confirming it to himself. Denise sighed, finally turning halfway toward him. She's been anxious for the last 20 minutes, she said casually. Her vitals are fine. Evan didn't answer right away, because he wasn't looking at her. He was looking at the pattern, and then he moved. Fast. Too fast for this to be nothing. His chair slammed backward as he stood fully, the sound cracking through the room like a gunshot. My heart, or whatever it was still doing, felt like it stuttered. What is that? He said, louder now, stepping closer to my bed. Denise frowned, clearly annoyed now. I just told you. No, Evan cut in, sharper this time. That's not anxiety. Something in his voice changed the air. Even Denise paused, just for a second. And in that second, the monitor let out a sharper, more aggressive tone. Not a beep. A warning. My chest felt like it dropped out completely. Like the next beat might not come. Evan leaned in, eyes wide now. Her heart rate. The machine screamed. A full alarm. Loud. Continuous. Impossible to ignore. And suddenly, everything was happening at once. The alarm didn't just go off. It exploded. It filled the room. Loud. Sharp. Relentless. Not background noise anymore. Not something you could brush off or explain away. This was the kind of sound that forces people to move. And suddenly they did. What's happening? Someone shouted from the hallway. I need help in here now. Evan's voice cut through everything, louder than I'd heard it before. Denise froze, just for a second. But it was enough, because in that second, everything she had said, you're fine, you're panicking, this is nothing, collapsed under the weight of that alarm. Evan was already at my bedside. Kendra, can you hear me? He asked quickly, leaning over me. I tried to answer. I don't even know if anything came out. The room felt distant, like I was slipping backward while everything else rushed forward. Voices overlapped. Footsteps pounded closer. The bright overhead lights smeared into streaks. My lips moved. No sound. My chest barely lifted. And the worst part, I wasn't even sure if my heart was still keeping up. Evan's hand hovered near the monitor leads, his eyes darting between the screen and my face. Her rhythm's not stable, he said urgently. This isn't a panic response. Look at the drop pattern. 2 nurses rushed in, followed by a doctor, Dr. Patel. Mid, 5 zeros, calm, but immediately focused. What do we have? He asked. Already scanning the monitor. Evan pointed. Progressive bradycardia. Look at the conduction gaps. This has been building. Dr. Patel's expression changed instantly. Not confusion. Recognition. How long? He asked sharply. And that question, it landed because For the first time, no one answered right away. Denise opened her mouth, closed it. She was stable earlier, she said, her voice thinner now. Her tests were normal. That's not what I asked, Dr. Patel said, not raising his voice, but somehow making it heavier. How long has this pattern been happening? Silence again. But the monitor wasn't silent. It screamed. My vision dimmed further, like someone was turning the world off one layer at a time. Hands moved quickly around me now. Get oxygen on her. Check IV access. Prepare atropine now. A mask was placed over my face. Cool air rushed in, but it didn't feel like enough. Nothing felt like enough. I could hear them, but it was fading, like I was drifting just out of reach. And in that drifting space, one thought kept repeating. I told them. I told you. I think I whispered. Or maybe I just thought it. Evan glanced at me just for a second and nodded, like he understood exactly what I meant. I know, he said quietly. Stay with us. Stay. That word felt far away. Dr. Patel leaned closer to the monitor, pointing again. This isn't sudden, he said. More controlled now, but no less intense. There were warning signs. Denise stepped back slightly, not arguing anymore, not dismissing anything, just quiet. The shift was undeniable. And I felt it even through the haze. The moment where everything changed from you're fine to this is serious, a syringe appeared in Dr. Patel's hand. On my count, he said. The room held its breath. Even the chaos felt paused for half a second. And right before everything tipped, right before whatever was about to happen next, Dr. Patel looked up, eyes sharp, voice steady. Let's fix this now. The next heartbeat didn't come when it was supposed to. There was a gap, a long one, long enough that even through the haze, I felt it, the absence, like my body was waiting for something that just didn't happen. And then everything snapped into motion. Now, Dr. Patel's voice was sharp, controlled. The medication went in through my IV. I felt a strange cold rush in my arms, spreading quickly, like something forcing its way back into a system that had started shutting down. Watch the monitor. All eyes locked onto the screen, even mine barely open, barely focused, drifted toward it. For a second, nothing changed. The line moved, slow, unsteady. Then, beep, a single, stronger sound. Then another, closer together this time. Beep, beep. The rhythm began to return. Not normal yet, not steady, but faster, more consistent. Good, Dr. Patel said under his breath. Come on. The numbers climbed. Sisha, woo, woosha. Each increase felt like something inside me was being pulled back into place. Air filled my lungs more easily. The crushing weight on my chest loosened just enough for me to notice the difference. I gasped this time, a real breath. And for the first time since this started, it felt like I might actually be okay. Once the immediate crisis passed, the room didn't go quiet, but it changed. The urgency softened into controlled movement, adjustments, monitoring, rechecking everything. Dr. Patel stayed close, watching the screen carefully. Her rhythm is stabilizing, he said. Then, more seriously, but we need to understand why this happened. That answer came quickly, not from guessing, from data, from the monitor logs that had been quietly recording everything the entire time. Evan pulled them up, scrolling back through the timeline. His finger traced along the pattern, pointing out exactly where things began to shift. Here, he said, this is where the conduction starts failing. It's subtle at first, but it progresses. Dr. Patel nodded. Advanced AV block, he confirmed. Her heart wasn't properly transmitting signals between chambers, that's why the rate kept dropping. Not anxiety, not panic. A cardiac conduction disorder that had been unfolding in real time. And the most important part, it wasn't sudden. The signs had been there for over 20 minutes. Clear, trackable, preventable from reaching that point if someone had acted sooner. Dr. Patel turned, his eyes landing briefly on Denise. You missed a progressive bradycardia trend, he said plainly, and you didn't escalate. There was no anger in his voice, just fact. And somehow that made it heavier. Denise didn't respond because there wasn't anything to say. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, oxygen still flowing softly through the mask. Everything felt different now, not just physically, but mentally, because the scariest part wasn't just what happened. It was realizing how close I had been while being told I was fine. Tears slipped sideways into my hair. Not dramatic, not loud, just quiet. I wasn't panicking, I said weakly. Evan, still nearby, glanced at me again. I know, he said. And that simple sentence hit harder than anything else. Because for the past 20 minutes, I had started to doubt myself, to question what I was feeling, to wonder if I was imagining it. And I wasn't. About 30 minutes later, my mum rushed into the room, her face tight, pale, searching, locked onto me immediately. Kendra, I'm okay, I said softly, even though my voice shook. She grabbed my hand, holding it tighter than I'd ever felt before. What happened? She asked, looking between the staff. Dr. Patel explained it carefully, clearly, not minimizing it, not softening it. By the time he finished, my mum's expression had changed from confusion to something sharper, not panic, understanding, and underneath that, anger. The aftermath didn't disappear once the emergency ended. It expanded because hospitals don't just move on from something like that. They investigate. The monitor logs were reviewed in full. Every drop in heart rate, every missed warning sign, every moment where intervention could have happened sooner. Denise was placed under immediate review, not quietly, formally, removed from patient care while the hospital conducted an internal investigation. Her earlier notes labeling my symptoms as anxiety became a central issue because they influenced inaction. Evan submitted a detailed report, timeline, observations, exact moment he recognized the pattern. His intervention, it was officially documented as critical. Dr. Patel pushed for protocol reinforcement. Within weeks, the unit updated procedures. Mandatory escalation for unexplained heart rate drops. Required second review of monitor trends in observation patients. Additional training on distinguishing anxiety from physiological distress. This wasn't just about one moment anymore. It changed how they handled the next patient. And the one after that, for me, it didn't end at discharge. Further testing confirmed the diagnosis. A conduction issue that hadn't shown up in routine tests but revealed itself under the right conditions. I didn't need emergency surgery, but I did need long-term monitoring and the possibility eventually of a pacemaker at chapters per Zeker. That part took time to process. A few days later, I was back in a hospital room. Different unit, different staff. This time, every sound meant something, but it didn't scare me the same way, because now I understood it. Beep, 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 steady, controlled, normal. I looked at the monitor not as something confusing or distant, but as something real, something important, something I would never ignore again. My mum sat beside me, quieter than usual, but present, not leaving this time. And me, I wasn't second-guessing myself anymore. If something felt wrong, I'd say it, and I wouldn't let anyone brush it off. The machine continued its steady rhythm. No alarms, no chaos. Just quiet, consistent confirmation that everything was working the way it should. And for the first time since that day, I didn't feel uncertain. I felt aware and fully, undeniably alive.